Thank you, Dr. Keshavan. We're now going to turn to the core of today's meeting, which is to hear from you, people living with schizophrenia, and caregivers of people living with schizophrenia. As we've heard, patient-focused drug development is a more systematic way of gathering patient perspectives and input on their conditions and on available treatments. As you heard earlier from FDA's Dr. Fisher, your input today can help inform the agency's understanding of schizophrenia and the burden it presents to those affected. Your words and stories will inform drug development and review. This is truly a unique and important opportunity for this community. Today's meeting is interactive, and you will have several different ways to participate. First, in our morning session, we'll be exploring the experience of living with schizophrenia and its impact on your daily life. In our second session, in the afternoon, we'll explore the various approaches to treatment, including your preferences about future treatments. To kick off each of these two topics, we'll hear from panels that are made up primarily of people living with schizophrenia, and also each panel will include a care partner of an individual living with the condition. We all recognize the importance of hearing this perspective. These panels will help set a good foundation for our broader discussion by representing a range of different experiences with schizophrenia, both in terms of the condition and treatment approaches. Let me be clear on an important point as we begin. We know that a handful of people on a panel cannot fully represent the experiences of everyone living with schizophrenia. So following these panel discussions, we'll move to a facilitated discussion with other members of our audience who have schizophrenia or are caring for someone who does. During these discussion sessions, Paulie and I will be asking questions of a few people who will be joining us live via Zoom. And we will also invite other members of our patient and caregiver audience to participate. You'll be able to provide comments in one of two ways, by phone or by submitting written comments. So hold tight for now. We'll share details on how you can do both of these things once we get to those discussion portions of today's meeting. We'll also be broadening the input in today's discussions with polling questions. This is also for people with schizophrenia and caregivers only. You can use your phone or open a new browser tab on your computer to follow along with these questions throughout the program. And we will provide clear instructions for this shortly. We will include as many people as possible in the discussion, but please remember that we may not be able to get everyone who calls in. If you do have comments and don't make it to the air, you're highly encouraged to submit written comments in the form below on the player today for up to 30 days after this meeting. Today's input, as well as all of your written comments, will be summarized in what's called a Voice of the Patient report. This report will include a summary of today's proceedings and will be provided to the FDA, as well as be made publicly available both through the Schizophrenia and Psychosis Action Alliance website, as well as the FDA website. This Voice of the Patient report will inform researchers, drug developers, and regulators going forward. What we are doing today will have a long-lasting effect on those who are committed to finding new and better treatments for this disease. Also, a few reminders before we start with some polling questions. First, we encourage individuals with schizophrenia and their caregivers only to contribute to the discussion. You can do that again by polling, by calling in by phone, and submitting written comments. We're very grateful to have audience members here representing the FDA, drug developers, researchers, and treating clinicians. We welcome you to discuss, to listen and learn throughout today's discussion, and ask that you do not call in, submit comments, or participate in the polling. Again, because this is the voice of the patient endeavor. So thanks for understanding this. We know the views expressed today are inherently personal, and the discussion may get emotional at times. So it's important to anticipate this and to assure that each of us respects each other and those who are courageous enough to speak up and share their experiences. Mutual respect is paramount. And to that end, we ask that you be focused and concise in your comments so that we can hear as many voices as possible. Please know that if I ask you to wrap up a comment, it's only because we have others waiting to speak. It is not to suggest that every word shared here is not truly important. It is. And with that, I'm going to mention just one thing to help frame the rest of our discussion. In drug development and in clinical studies, the term p-values is important, and it suggested something of clinical or statistical significance. I would like to ask you as you listen to think of p-values in a different way. Words beginning with the letter P that frame how we approach this voice of the patient. We are doing panels. We have polling, participating persons, phone-ins, and posts, all beginning with the letter P and reminding us that all of those important inputs culminate in powerful perspectives from the voice of patients. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn things over to Paulie to get us started on some polling questions, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tim. That was very poetic. Thank you. So I'm looking forward to what everyone has to say today. So thank you in advance for your courage in sharing your stories. As Tim mentioned, everything you're comfortable sharing today with us is important. So let's start the participation part of the meeting with polling questions. Most of these first questions will follow the theme of your experience of living with schizophrenia and its impacts on your daily life. So to access the polling, use your phone or open a new tab on your web browser. Go to pollev.com/SCZPFDD. Again, that's pollev.com/SCZPFDD. We'll be using these questions to get a sense of experience of our patient and caregiver audience, as well as to help aid in the discussion. Your answers will appear in real time, and again, you can answer them on a phone or your computer at pollev.com/SCZPFDD. And we'll give everyone a little bit of time to get their phone out, open a browser on their computer and what have you, and get over there to the pollev.com/SCZPFDD.
I believe we can all see the evolution of the information as folks respond. It's always important for us to understand the perspectives that are being reflected and also how this relates to how we may interpret responses through the remainder of the questions.
Exactly. So yeah, that's why the first question here is which best describes you. And of course, so for each individual responding, are you a person with schizophrenia or are you a caregiver of a person with schizophrenia? And quite a bit of caregivers today. That's wonderful.
Well, and it's great to have both perspectives to help us understand, how some of the differing demands and burdens that occur for one who's caring for those who are afflicted with this disorder.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so many people have the disorder, so to right off the bat have a lot of people, a lot of caregivers responding is wonderful.
So the results, as I believe everyone can see, is about 9 out of 10 are caregivers who are participating.
And so to anyone out there who has actually been diagnosed with schizophrenia, if you'd like to open up the browser on your computer, get out your mobile device, go to the website pollev.com/SCZPFDD. And so, yep, we're still looking at about, 9 out of 10 caregivers?
Seems representative.
Good.
Okay.
Let's go to the next polling question. Which of the following best describes your race or ethnicity? select all that apply. And option A is American Indian or Alaska Native. Option B, Asian. Option C, Black or African American. Option D, Hispanic or Latino. Option E, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. Option F, White, Caucasian. Option G, another option not listed. And again, select as many as you feel apply to you. And this would be you or the person, it's you or the person that you care for?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And right away, we've a lot of people who feel they are white, possibly also another option, Asian, Black African American, Hispanic or Latino, some Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. Wonderful.
So it's helpful for us to always look at demographics, not only just out of interest, but because in some cases it does reflect sensitivities to medications or to adverse events. So keeping this as part of our reflections is helpful, and we'll see that in other demographic inquiries coming up in the pending questions.
Right, right. And again, this is, if you'd like to respond, if you don't have a device with you now, can't get to a computer, that's fine. This will be open all day today until 3 o'clock, and you can still leave comments after this for up to 30 days. So a few more people responding with Asian. Yep. Numbers still moving there. And again, this is all that apply, because especially these days, I mean, now more than ever, a lot of people identify with multiple different ethnicities, which is wonderful.
Very good. So it's not quite representative of the array of individuals afflicted with schizophrenia in terms of those trends, but it's certainly enough to help us see that there's not just a singular representation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do remember that the polling on this is confidential. So as honest as you can be, we've got another option not listed down there at the bottom. That's good to know.
Very good.
So let's see if we can move on. Maybe we're going to move on to the next polling question soon. Take your time, though, with getting on there and answering the questions as you can. Okay, the next question is going to be, with which gender do you most identify? Option A, male. Option B, female. Option C, non-binary. Option D, other gender not listed. And of course, again, Tim, these days, very, very relevant question. I mean, this is, okay, we've got mostly female respondents now. And
for those of us who worked in drug development for our entire clinical careers, understanding that there may be gender differences in responses to certain medicines is important as we think about drug interactions or things of that sort. That doesn't happen to be one of the things we'll be drilling down on, but these are helpful reference points.
Exactly. Good place to start from. And again, that website, pollev.com/SCZ-PFDD. Got a couple people, or well, I'm guessing at that, maybe one or two people or so responding with non-binary. I hope we've got a lot of people who continue to tune in on this. The more respondents we get on this, the better.
And I'm not sure what the denominator is on here, the number of individuals who are logged in and are also responding. But
yeah, I can only imagine it gets more and more representative as we go on.
Absolutely.
So let's see. We've
So
still got
about a
mostly
60-40 split
60-40 female to male, and a few people responding with non-binary. And if you don't know, go ahead and put other gender not listed. Very relevant. So let's move on to the next question then. Question 4, how old were you or your loved one when you first experienced symptoms of schizophrenia? Any symptoms that you feel were related Option A, younger than 18 years. Option B, 18 to 29 years. Option C, 30 to 39. Option D, 40 to 49. Option E, 50 to 59. And option F, 60 or older. And Tim, I think you had mentioned to me before the show that there was a lot of focus on either the youngest or oldest age group, at least traditionally?
In drug development overall, not just in schizophrenia, but there are unique things at our bookends of age, if you will. And actually, there are study guidances or kind of guidelines for the elderly and for the very young. So difference in metabolism, in concurrent medicines and other things may influence a variety of treatment choices. So those are important to understand.
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of people who feel their symptoms may have started at younger than 18 years. That's very interesting.
Very interesting indeed. I mean, some would love to be able to break that down further and say, was it before age 6? Was it before age 16? To understand, we know that adolescence is a traumatic time, at least according to my kids, and probably yours as well.
When, as Dr. Keshavan spoke to, you know, some of that developmental things, the developmental things in the brain.
Absolutely. So that's very interesting, and obviously a time of great physical and emotional change as you get into high school and college years and so forth.
Of course. So yeah, we've got about 30% respondents younger than 18 and 61% 18 to 29, several 30 to 39, some 40 to 49. We had some respondents, we had more than 1% there at the 60 years or older. So keep going to that pollev.com/SCZPFDD.
And that would be pretty much, I would think, the epidemiologist would look at this and say, this is a nice representation consistent with the pattern, the prevalence of schizophrenia.
Seems familiar from some of my own experiences, yeah, from what I've read. All right, a few more younger than 18 years going up there. Good.
All right.
So let's see. Let's go on to the next question then. Do we have one more for today? Yeah. Question 5. During the past 30 days, how severe would you say you or your loved one's schizophrenia symptoms have been? So in the past 30 days, how severe would you say you or your loved one's symptoms have been with schizophrenia? Option A, no symptoms in the past 30 days. Option B, mild. Option C, moderate. Option D, severe. And right away, people were jumping in with mild and moderate. Those are very even now.
And
several severe. Now some coming in with no symptoms. That's good.
But it's a very low number, single digits, and it's probably reflective of how challenging treatment and response can be at times. So this is helpful to understand.
Definitely. Yeah, that is good to see, though, and we're up to no symptoms at 10%, and that mild is at almost 40%. Moderate keeping up there, but yeah, with the severe at 20%.
Yeah, twice as much on severe as no symptoms, which is a little disconcerting for those struggling in that way.
Well, it is. It's important to keep in mind sometimes a severe symptom may only last a few hours, and then people are able to learn to cope and, yeah, and thrive.
Great point.
The theme today. Especially the longer that they may have had schizophrenia. So,
yeah, as we talked about earlier, and it's certainly been important from FDA's spoken perspectives, that feel, function, and survive are critical measures for them as they look at the relative benefit and risk. And what we're talking about here is graduating beyond survive to thrive.
Yeah.
So how can we accelerate the new developments that allow that thriving to occur?
Still no symptoms around 10%, mild and moderate even at about 40, and severe at 20. Okay, so looks like those are floating right around those same numbers, so that's good. Thank you for your responses on that. And I believe that's our last question for now. Okay. Just like to make another reminder that this is very helpful. Remember, your responses for the FDA for therapies going forward. Any of your feedback for therapies is very welcomed. So continue to go to that pollev.com/SCZPFDD. So thank you for participating in these polling questions. You can keep that website open so you can answer additional questions throughout the day. And I'm going to turn this back over to Tim to introduce our first topic of the day.